As a young lawyer, I favored those speakers that I studied who could speak without notes, who could speak freely, and basically appeared naked, if you will, to their audience. Thus, the audience knew what it was getting. And I prepared some notes which I think address some of our recent difficulties. That is the fight between a democracy and an autocracy. In recent days, we've had a speech by the President of the United States, Joe Biden, at Philadelphia. And to my way of thinking, he chose the right place to discuss the two documents that are our founding documents, our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. The notion that all men are created equal, and the Constitution, we the people, we are represented. We are not a dictatorship. We are a group of people working in a government for the best of all. But that is not Trump's message. And that's what Biden was addressing when he spoke to the nation. He had sounding words that evoked what is our original notion of what a democracy is. So I thought it would be good to think about what was said on that day in those words and compare it to Trump. Trump's reaction to calling out the MAGA Republicans as basically semi-fascist or fascist, as mystically, cultishly believing, at least saying, that the insurrection was a patriotic thing to do. Now, we have to believe they're smart enough to know that it wasn't a patriotic thing to do, that it was an attack on democracy, that it was an effort at a coup. And if they know these things, then we have put at the very foundation of their action the lie that is the reason that we must both speak the truth about how America is being compromised and attacked by some great number of Republicans, by some misguided leaders who speak and act inconsistently. We know that Biden says that the law should apply. Trump does not believe that. We know that Biden believes the will of the people should matter. Trump doesn't believe that. Trump is a throwback, although I don't believe he believes it, to the divine king. He is like the divine king. After all, he surrounds himself with gold and so forth, probably cheap gold and cheap crystal, but a lot of it is the front. Whereas Biden is the real thing. You often hear politicians say there's the show horse and there's the workhorse. Well, Biden is the workhorse, has been, always has been. And I think he comes very reluctantly to the notion that he must get up and declare the nation has an enemy within, and it is these semi-fascists who would compromise all the work and all that we are as a people. So in his address, I think he fairly went through the variety of things that concern us. Now, it strikes me as creeping fascism had some effect in the coverage of the event. That is, the networks didn't watch. They put on, reruns and other things at a time when Biden was drawing the contrast between where we've been for most of our history and where we should go, that is continuing as a democracy and as a republic, and not as an autocracy or dictatorship. The press stood down. The media giants decided not to play it. Why? Was that the advertising? What was it? What were they afraid of? Has Trump as bullied them as well? And then they call it political. Aristotle's description of political was that he measured hundreds of documents to decide which form of government was good or bad. And you may agree or disagree with him, but that's what is meant by political. And that was the very exercise that Biden was engaging in. He was comparing the two governments. What we could expect if Trump or his facsimile took power and then came at us as a dictator, that is occupying the space that is occupied in economics and military life and all our various rights and freedoms, all of that under one man, Trump. Could you trust that man? Do you think you would be better off if Trump returned to office? Biden, who brought down Trump in the last election, did it, it seems to me, in a combination of ways. He spoke truth. That was our ally. No less than the minority leader, Republican leader in the House, McCarthy, has said, how could you slander millions of Americans, calling them fascists in effect? Well, the answer to any slander is that the slander is true. That is to say, if I say you are a pig stealer and that is slanderous per se because it implies and asserts a crime, then that's a slander. But if I show that you actually stole the pig, then it's true. So it's a slander that is true, which is not actionable. I think that that's what Biden has done. He's very carefully identified those people who are leading the Republican Party, really, and acting on its behalf as its agents, and particularly of Trump's impulses to violence and bad action. And they are doing what? They're doing what they want. They're intimidating, they're causing violence, they're lying, they're doing the kinds of things that a mob, a criminal mob, does. A mob informed by the practices that Trump studied in New York with real crime figures, under the tutelage of one of the worst lawyers in American history, Roy Cohn, worst in the sense of the bad acts that he performed during his period of time when he was active. So what Biden did was he stepped out of the Rose Garden and went to Philadelphia and planted himself at the origin, the font of our democracy, and invoked the nation to follow those documents now, to say they were under attack, to say they were under attack by lies and by force, and that we had to make it absolutely certain that we would not let anyone take these protections away from us. Now, the question is talk enough? And some might point to the prosecutions, but the prosecutions that don't seem to move from investigation to anything else have been a sore disappointment. Even as I speak to you, I'm informed that the judge in Florida is stopping the analysis of what was seized in the search at Mar-a-Lago that involves stolen documents taken by Trump and kept at Mar-a-Lago in violation of laws, and that the government gave him every opportunity to return it, but in his arrogance, he withheld it and misrepresented what the situation was to the government. And now when he's called upon it and the government could close the deal, a judge appointed by Trump is saying, no, you can't do that. Not now, not right now. No, you have to stop. This is a call to arms in a way that we don't understand in politics. We have to adapt to the situation or fail the conflict between the ignoble purposes of Trump and his fascists and those of us who believe in a democracy and a republic, and that that's the best form of government, even with our differences, so that we find a way to come together, to act together, which has been woefully absent in recent years, and exclusively because of the Republicans. So what are we to do? It seems to me that we have to accept, however reluctantly we may, that if we are not arguing in the public sphere at the same time we are fighting in a courtroom, we are losing. If we are not acting instead of just talking in a year that's an election year, we are failing our responsibility to preserve and protect the Constitution. If we are not calling out Trump, who seems hell-bent on running for the presidency, and invoking Article 14, Section 3 that would bar him because of his support of insurrection, then again, we're losing another weapon. We've had weapons in these court cases that we don't use because we think it's enough. but our presumption on the regularity of our institutions and the fact that people get it and understand what's going on, even when we don't explain it in the public sphere, is a strategy that invites disaster. We have to be in all places at all times, and we have to stop presuming that somehow or other our existence is so grave and important that people will follow it. Polls that vary from time to time tell us the nation, the people, we the people believe our democracy is at risk. We have to do something about that. We have to give them reason to believe that our democracy is real and that we are fighting for them. And those social media contacts I have and public appearances I make, what I hear is that, what are we going to do? We should fire Garland. Maybe. We should have a real prosecutor. Absolutely. Tick tock, as the time goes on and we don't even arrest Trump, we are failing. We have to act. And when I say arrest, some people understand and don't understand what I'm saying. You don't have to indict. You can arrest a person on a criminal complaint sworn by an FBI agent or some other agent of the government that sets forth what crimes he committed. If you just look at the outline of the report filed by the government before the judge in Florida, who has now suspended a review of the documents that were seized, if you saw those, 2,500 words, and you reduced them into the paragraphs and an affidavit in support of a criminal complaint against Trump, you have the case. And here's the thing, when you file a criminal complaint, you can follow it up with an indictment. We cannot continue to have the fear to go forward, because the fear to go forward is a fear that leads to our failure. And that is where we are now. We have Trump turning the tables on Biden, calling him an enemy of the state or the nation. There's an old play by, which is in fact called An Enemy of the People. And in that, Henrik Ibsen describes a man who finds that the spa is at risk because of possible disease. And he has a medical report that shows that. And he goes to tell the people, and he figures he'll be a hero for telling them this. But they prefer the lie because they think it will destroy their town. So for him telling the truth, he becomes an enemy of the people. Very convincingly, he suffers enormously. Biden is not in that position. And Ibsen constructed a character who had certain flaws that made it a more balanced, well, not more balanced, I would say. It showed Dr. Stockman to be somewhat less to the task of the fight. I would not like to see us duplicate that in real life, and that Biden and those of us who believe in democracy become the Dr. Stockmans, and we are somehow the enemy when we're not, because someone says it more frequently in the public arena than we come out and argue that it's wrong. We cannot wish away this issue. This is a fight we must engage in. From time to time, I've invoked the statue that Michelangelo constructed of David, the emerging form. And David, the question is, what is the statue about? David is at that moment when he holds his slingshot against a giant and has reached the resolve that he is going to fight the giant, even though it may cost him his life. And he does, and he prevails. But in the moment of that statue, when he stands there, that attractive athlete, ready to commit himself for the people of the time, he has decided to risk it all. We're in that situation. We require the resolve of David to go forward. And Trump is no Goliath. He's just a bully. And we have to take him down. And we have to take him down lawfully, effectively, strongly, without, as they say, fear or favor. But all around us, we see the fear. And we see the favor extended by the failure to do anything. There's a Some may remember the famous story of Harry Truman giving a speech in the 1948 election. And somebody in the audience said, shouted at him, "Give him hell, Harry." And Truman said, "I don't presume to give him hell. I just tell him the truth, and it feels like hell." It is our job to use the truth to prosecute Trump now, not tomorrow, not 3 weeks from now, not a promise after the election. This man presents a clear and present danger to our democracy. His people do as well. Unless we show the resolve to mean that the words we spoke have a basis in action and a need to act, we fail. We fail the course. We fail the fight. We fail democracy. We cannot do that. So we have to arrest the bastard. And I don't care if he goes to hell. I just want him in office. I don't want him being an influence in America, because he's a one-man crime wave, and that's not acceptable. So I have more details and notes I made and things I thought about, but I don't know. I've reached an age where it's not comfortable for me to read rather than to talk about what I know and think. I hope you agree with me. And if you do, let the forces that be know that we mean business. Tell them to stop messing around and arrest this bastard. This is not acceptable. You know, there's a reason why Jack Kennedy's book is such a thin book. There are so few profiles of courage in history. When the historians met with Biden, they moved him from his notion of the soul of the nation to the fact that it was at risk now, presently. We can call it, we can say it, but we have to act upon it. We have to act as if we really believe the nation is at risk and fight like mad for it. Sure, we can fight in the election for it, but that's not what we should be doing alone. We have to fight in the public forum, and we have to fight in the courtrooms, and a prosecution is what it takes. This nation has let 2 years go by when this man Trump created the greatest crimes in American history, and we are not acting upon it. Quote, investigating him. Do they think, does somebody think in some of the inner sanctums of our government that if they prosecute Meadows or some other assistant to Trump, will be satiated that something has been done? No. This is a movement that has to be told that the law matters, that the Constitution matters, that this is a democracy, this is a republic, and you are not welcome. Go to some other nation. There are plenty of them that had dictatorships that don't believe in freedom and that will force you to suffer for expressing your opinions about the government. We are not that country, not yet, but it's in danger. So I had to say a few words. I hope you found them interesting. And if you did, let me know. All the best. Bye-bye.